Choip, choip, choip. Choip, choip, choip.
The shopping cart is the ultimate weapon. And on the way to Canada, there will be plenty to throw at the enemy. Why Canada? Because it's the last country on Earth. Your only hope of refuge from the undead hordes. But it's a long journey fraught with peril. And viscera. If you want to make it, you have to collect enough resources for the trip. Scavenge for food to feed yourself. Collect gasoline for the car. Obviously, don't forget to check the toilets for it. That's where gas lives. While you're at it, maybe get a new car. Perhaps welcome a few other hapless survivors to your cause. Remember, you need ammo as well to shoot them with, or maybe an implement to bash, slice, or stab them with. But it's not that simple. Food is also the currency of this world. Should we spend it at this gym/nightclub to improve our fighting prowess, risking starvation? Also, we've got a tough fight ahead of us, and some of the strongest weaponry requires gasoline. Do we keep it for the car or for the weapon? Should we risk running out of gas? Having to hoof it until we find a new car? Also, I don't like the look of some of our travel companions. I'm sure one of them is going to betray us. Or hinder us at the very least. You know, by being a dog. You can do it, Corey. You're the red dog of the zombie world. And now that I think about it, are we really going to sacrifice gasoline for the chainsaw? This person will give us food for it. There are many things to consider on this trip. Throw in a few random encounters that require you to make decisions, usually involving skill checks of your crew to reap rewards or penalties. Just a couple of wrong decisions can destroy you. Sometimes one decision can sink you. If you're not careful. It's complex, yet not too complex. It doesn't make you take it too seriously. Every decision you make is more like a fun thing to take a minute or two to think over, instead of something that makes you pull out your hair. Just live with the consequences of a bad decision. Or, don't. I guess I'll start another run. Light entertainment. In that same vein, the random encounters are funny and ridiculous. For instance, they keep showing this creepy, grainy, black and white picture of a skeleton, even when the outcome of the decision was fine or even good. Some of the survivors you meet are famous or funny characters. Plus, there are other, more complete parody moments. The gameplay is satisfying. You get a jolt when you see your resources increase, and when you're well prepared. When you get a powerful new weapon, and just eviscerate some zombies. Also, surviving a massive horde gives you endorphins. Repeat process until you reach the border. And hope you are prepared for the final, brutal push. To Canada. And success and euphoria. Because while fun, the journey can be quite tough. Because as horde strength increases later on, those caught unprepared will run around for ages, desperately whacking at zombies, trying to survive, and then after all that, you get mauled. Frustrating, especially when you're this far along in the run and have to restart. The game's combat is strategic and deliberate. If you have ammo and a ranged weapon, you can attack from afar, but that's usually noisy and attracts the undead. So usually you'll use a melee weapon. Each swing tires you a bit, until you're sweating and have to take a break. More in-shape characters can brain more before they start to brine. Bigger weapons take a longer time to reset after swinging, and take more out of you. Some weapons have longer reach than others. Some are more fragile than others. Some kind of feel useless. And some are better against groups of zombies because they cleave through them. Even if they're more at home in the garden. So your weapon choice can be quite significant. If you actually find enough weapons to choose from. And honestly, beyond that, it's kind of easier to avoid fighting at all. But sometimes the horde is massive and angry, will chase after you, and something has to die. Then you have to have a good team with good weapons. A good melee weapon, maybe some Molotovs and grenades for crowd control. An assault rifle if you have ammo to burn. And always always keep an eye on the Horde. You need to be able to move freely and escape them. Otherwise, your only choice really is to give them the Thermopylae treatment, if the terrain allows it. Be warned though, you may have a plan or strategy in your head, but it's very easy to deviate and just beat them with some wood. And instead of avoiding fights, playing defensively, your default setting may be just charging in and whack whack whack. Visually, the game is okay. It has a fair pixel art style. The areas look a bit plain and generic, but that's a touch understandable, they are procedurally generated. The areas act more like a staging area for the Horde. The zombie design is great, and there are enough templates to make spotting duplicates in the Horde pretty difficult, especially during times of duress, when you're just trying to squeeze through to a modicum of safety. Plus, they shamble and they mob. They really overwhelm you. Plus, there are some great, if graphically gross, animations when you hit them, shown as minute to detail as bashing a zombie's teeth out. Well, I'm optimistic that that's teeth anyway. Even though the zombies are very grey, they steal the show. On the other end of the spectrum, there's this really flashy, colorful light show that comes up when there's a very serious zombie threat. It kind of starts to feel all over the place, especially when you start to consider the music as well. The music is good, but one of the songs is this really loud surf rock track. It did win me over, but at first I felt it was quite grating. But after a while I was like, yeah, alright. And on the road you commonly hear this very relaxing tune. And sometimes the music gets genuinely ominous. So thematically this game is very difficult to pin down. Too pallid for fun, but too silly to be serious. It is a roguelite game, and you can collect Zombo points and spend them on upgrades in between runs, to make it easier to succeed next time. But for me, it took me about 11 hours before my first run was successful, which means there wasn't really enough time for me to upgrade much, or collect points. And, as far as I can tell, there isn't really much of a reason to replay the game, once you've succeeded, other than fun and to see all the weird stuff. Especially with a friend, because this game does have same-screen co-op. And it is controller flexible. I tried a high-end Xbox controller, as well as less official types. And there are other modes available. Modes that increase or decrease the length of the journey, perhaps to cater to how much time you have to play. And modes where famous and weird characters show up instead of the normal survivors. There's even a mode where all the characters you meet are custom-made characters, so prepare to see your friends dying. It adds a bit of extra novelty, especially if you do go the co-op route. It is cheap on Steam, 105 Rand full price, 26 Rand 25 on sale. That's 2 Rand 39 per hour of gameplay, which is quite good. And perhaps some of you will play multiple runs and squeeze more hours out of it, increasing the value for money. Plus, this game may be a very good option to keep around for when you have company. Will we make it to Canada this time? And the game does run on the Warhorse. I don't recall any issues. And it has a very reasonable download size. Downright small, actually, as it only takes up 101 megabytes on the hard drive. But stereotypically it is not kid-friendly really, in spite of its kind of cute nature. But I believe purely on the grounds of violence. Pixel organs and whatnot. If you don't mind your kid playing violent things, go right ahead. I think it's fine. The gameplay is great, the combat is deliberate and strategic. But it can be a bit annoying when your character has to stop swinging due to fatigue. And the gameplay is quite well rounded. Resource management, combat, random encounters, a calming driving cinematic. The game is funny as well, although some of the humor is derived from Canada jokes, and those can be a bit passé. Don't worry, most of those jokes appear at the end. And the game has good music if there is no thematic unity amongst the tracks. The music doesn't necessarily match with the visuals either, really. On the maybe side, the visuals are okay. The pixel art humans are okay. The areas can look a bit plain, generic and bleak, but the zombie design is outstanding. Also, while the game is funny, it doesn't really have a story. Well, arguably your choices make the story, but there isn't really anything overarching in a manner that you're like, what's gonna happen next? And that leads us to our cons. In my opinion, the roguelite elements don't get the shine, because I played it for quite a short amount of time, and the roguelite elements went to waste. There didn't really seem to be any reason to move forward. There was no story to see what happens next, and I read online, sure, traits of the people who survive get different lines in the epilogue, but I doubt that's necessarily worthwhile to go through all of this again. There are other modes, as I've mentioned, but I also read online that leads to 1 or 2 other epilogue lines, and it just seems like they're the main game, but harder. As though there's not much to help the medicine go down, and also, you don't need medicine now. But some of you will be able to squeeze more hours out of it as an in-between game or a game to play with company. Or if you don't have many games and are willing to play the harder modes. Or maybe very intrigued to see everything the game has to offer. Just to me, it didn't really feel like it would be worthwhile. It's a very good game, come on, play it. If for no other reason than to experience the hypnotic, strangely enthralling thrill of hearing the squishing noise made by stepping on entrails.
Choip, choip, choip. Choip, choip, choip.